Have you ever longed to be that unshakable person? The one impervious to criticism, untouched by rejection, unburdened by loss, or unmoved by betrayal? Do you dream of a day when that silent, gnawing pain, that relentless anguish that consumes you from within, finally ceases, even as you meticulously maintain an outward facade of calm composure? Perhaps you're weary of the relentless effort to please everyone, of upholding an image that demands constant strength, when all you truly desire is a moment of respite from the exhausting pressure of appearing invincible. But let me offer you a profound truth, one rarely spoken with such candor. As long as you strive to evade pain, it will continue to wield its power over you. As long as you attempt to numb yourself, to construct elaborate shields, to hide from its inevitable sting, you will remain a prisoner to every external event, to the careless words that wound, to the actions that disappoint, to the suffocating silences that extinguish your spirit from within. And this isn't a sign of weakness. It's a universal human experience, with a subtle distinction that some are simply more adept at masking their inner struggles than others. Carl Jung, a titan of depth psychology, once asserted that we are not what happens to us, but what we choose to become. This insight holds a key. The aim isn't to erect impenetrable barriers against the world, to cultivate an icy indifference, or become an unfeeling automaton. No, the true path lies in integration, in bringing to light everything that currently afflicts you in the shadowed recesses of your being. True strength isn't the absence of pain, but profound and unflinching awareness of who you are, even in moments of profound bleeding. If you found yourself here, listening to these words, understand that it's not by chance. This video is for you, the one exhausted by the constant wounds inflicted by external forces. It's for you, who feels perpetually at an emotional disadvantage, as if others hold an unseen power over you. I want to show you that this doesn't have to be your enduring reality. But to truly grasp this, you'll need to confront some uncomfortable truths that may initially sting, but which, perhaps for the very first time, hold the potential to set you free. Let's begin. If you find value in this discussion, remember to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future explorations into Stoic mindset and Jungian psychology. And please, leave a comment below to share your initial thoughts. Number 1. The mirror of pain, understanding your internal wounds. You probably believe that the source of your suffering resides solely in the external world, in the actions of others, in poorly chosen words, in the painful abandonments you've endured, in the unexpected betrayals that left you reeling. But here's a brutal, yet liberating truth. None of these external events possess the inherent power to truly wound you unless there already exists an unaddressed, open wound within your own psyche. What truly hurts you isn't merely what others do to you. It's what these experiences activate within you. It's a narrative you construct around the event, the echo of old, unhealed traumas that have never been genuinely faced. It's the deep-seated emptiness you desperately attempt to disguise with outward displays of strength, with a hardened pride, or with that frantic, desperate need to appear perpetually well-adjusted. Carl Jung meticulously illustrates that the pain we experience in the face of the external world is nothing more than a reflection of what remains unintegrated into our internal landscape. This explains why some individuals can navigate devastating personal catastrophes with remarkable clarity and resilience, while others crumble under the weight of a seemingly innocuous comment. The true impact isn't solely about what happens. It's about where it lands, which sensitive points it strikes within your own being. And here arises an uncomfortable revelation. You continue to suffer so profoundly because, on some deeply ingrained level, you still cling to the illusion that you can control how the world should treat you. You are still tirelessly striving to be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, understanding enough, as if these qualities could somehow serve as an infallible shield against hurt. But control, in this sense, is an illusion, a fleeting mirage. As long as you desperately cling to it, you will remain trapped in a state of constant tension, futilely attempting to predict the unpredictable and to avoid the inevitable. Do you genuinely desire to transcend this suffering? Then cease your ceaseless efforts to protect yourself from suffering. What you truly need is more control, It's more awareness. As long as you believe that others must change or your pain to dissipate, you will remain enslaved by their actions and reactions. Your liberation begins the moment you understand that anything originating from the outside only wields power if it finds an echo within your own inner world. And this, my friends, is precisely where the true battlefield lies. The unconscious, that which you do not see, do not comprehend, and do not master, ultimately masters you. And it is this profound truth that we will begin to explore in the next section. Prepare yourself for a descent into deeper layers of understanding, for it is within these depths that true transformation begins. If this content is resonating with you, please click that subscribe button and join our community. Your support is truly invaluable. Number 2, the unseen puppet master. Confronting your unconscious. The greatest deception ever foisted upon you is the notion that you are unequivocally in control of your own life. Wake up. You aren't. At least, not as long as you continue to navigate life on autopilot, reacting without knowing why, feeling emotions without understanding their origins, and making decisions that you later inexplicably sabotage. Carl Jung articulated this with piercing clarity when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this, precisely, is what is unfolded within you right now. The pain you feel, the anger that explodes out of nowhere, the sadness that invades you without explanation. None of this is random. They are potent messages, emissaries from forgotten, ignored, and repressed parts of your own being. Jung referred to the shadowy territory as the unconscious, and it is far more than a vague collection of abstract thoughts. It is an active, dynamic force, an entire intricate system of memories, unhealed traumas, suppressed desires, and existential fears that you had deliberately avoided confronting. Yet, despite your avoidance, these forces continue to orchestrate what you feel and how you behave. You wonder why certain words possess the power to utterly devastate you, while other people remain unaffected. It's because those words strike sensitive chords within you that are still resonating, still alive. And if they remain alive, it's because you have never truly confronted them. You have merely swept them under the psychological rug, and now you find yourself perpetually tripping over them. Jung's wisdom echoes, "We cannot change anything until we accept it." Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. And what has been your recurring pattern? Self-judgment, repression, silencing your own inner voice, as if these actions could magically resolve anything. The undeniable truth is that the unconscious doesn't simply vanish because you choose to ignore it. It merely finds more insidious and dangerous avenues for manifestation. In the recurring patterns of toxic relationships, in the cycles of self-sabotage that you seem unable to break, in the sudden surges of anxiety and fear that emerge even when everything appears to be going well. This isn't bad luck. It is your unconscious trying to wake you up, but you stubbornly insist on sleeping. Do you genuinely desire to become someone who is no longer hurt? Then stop running away from what is inside you. Because as long as you do not know your unconscious, you will be a puppet of your emotions. And paradoxically, the more you try to protect yourself from external pain, the more vulnerable you become to internal pain. But there's a way out, and it is not in defending yourself. It is in integrating yourself. Because becoming unshakable is not an act of resistance. It is an act of deep knowledge. This is what we will see next. What does it truly mean to be someone who is unshaken? And why does this strength not come from armor, but from acceptance? Let's continue. Number 3, beyond armor, the strength of integration. Most people hold the mistaken belief that the only way to avoid being hurt is by closing themselves off. They construct elaborate walls, craft intricate masks, develop emotional armor, and feign an air of unaffectedness. They declare, "I don't care anymore," or "nothing gets to me." Yet, beneath this carefully curated exterior, they continue to bleed internally, their spirits slowly corroding. This isn't because feeling itself is the problem. The problem lies in a profound lack of understanding of what you're feeling and, more importantly, why. This state of emotional illiteracy is exclusive to those who have not yet truly come to know themselves. Carl Jung offered precise and deeply humanistic directive. Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul. And that very human soul, the one you insist on concealing behind a strong, invulnerable, perfectly controlled character, is crying out to be seen, to be acknowledged. Becoming emotionally resilient has absolutely nothing to do with cultivating coldness. It has nothing to do with ignoring pain, avoiding conflict, or pretending not to care. True emotional strength is about integrating, about accepting, about bringing to light everything you have buried in the dark. You don't become unshakable by creating a barrier between yourself and the world. You become unshakable when you realize that no one can touch what has already been fully embraced and integrated within you. When you integrate your shadow, your fears, your flaws, your insecurities, you stop reacting to everything. You observe, you choose, you act with intention. You are no longer merely an emotional puppet, and that, my friends, is genuine freedom. Jung termed this profound process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. Not what others expect of you, not the version you believed you needed to be to gain acceptance, but the authentic self that emerges in the profound meeting of light and shadow between the conscious ego and the boundless unconscious. Individuation, Jung emphasized, is not a process of achieving perfection, but one of integration. You don't need to become a better person in the conventional sense. You simply need to become whole. And here's the secret that no one told you. The more you run from pain, the more relentlessly it pursues you. The more you try not to be affected, the more fragile you become. But when you courageously face your own internal wounds, when you accept who you are with all that is beautiful and all that is perceived as ugly, with all that is noble and all that is shameful, nothing external possesses a power to truly dismantle you. However, this path demands profound courage. The courage to look within, the courage to shed your protective masks, the courage to truly feel. For it is precisely within the crucible of pain that the key to your ultimate transformation is hidden. And that is what we will discover in the next part. How suffering, far from being an adversary, can become the unexpected gateway to your authentic, unshakable strength. Let's dive deeper, and this time without fear. Number 4, the alchemical fire. Suffering is a path to strength. You learn to hate pain since you were little. You were taught that suffering is a sign of weakness, that crying is a waste of time, that feeling too much makes you vulnerable. And so, you began to run, to avoid, to deny. But the more you flee from suffering, the more tenaciously it pursues you, and cruelly it morphs, disguising itself as anxiety, as an unexplained anger, as a pervasive apathy, as a crippling boredom, or as self-destructive impulses whose origins you can't even fathom. Ignored pain does not disappear. It just digs tunnels inside you until one day, without warning, everything collapses. Carl Jung saw suffering in a completely different way. He believed that pain was the messenger of the soul, the alarm of the unconscious, the language that the self, what you are in your entirety, uses to get your attention. He said, "Depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her to sit down, offer her coffee, and listen to what she has to say." But you don't listen. You silence yourself. You distract yourself. You keep yourself perpetually busy. You numb yourself. You do everything to avoid looking at what really matters. What is this pain desperately trying to show you? The truth is that suffering only hurts so much because you are still at war with yourself. There is still a part you wanted to grow, and another part wanted to keep everything as it is. There is something inside you that cries out for transformation, but your ego, accustomed to control, tries to suffocate that call. And it is in this friction that pain is born, because change hurts, growth hurts, letting go of old beliefs, cutting toxic ties, allowing what no longer serve you to die. All of this is a mourning, an internal process of death and rebirth. But it is precisely in the space of ruin that something new can be born. Because when everything in you is deconstructed, when certainties crumble, when pain lays bare your vulnerability, You can finally see who you really are without the layers of protection, without the performance, without the mask. And at that exact point, suffering becomes sacred, because it brings you to your knees before the only thing that can set you free, yourself. Jung knew this. He understood that suffering is not a failure of the system. It is part of the process. Pain is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of a journey towards individuation. The problem is that most people give up before crossing that dark valley. They flee. They distract themselves. They return to the surface. But not you. If you have made it this far, it is because you are ready to cross. And in the next part, we will understand how this crossing process happens, how the path of individuation, no matter how lonely and brutal it may seem, is what finally sets you free. Let's continue. It's getting deeper now. Number 5, the path of individuation. Consciousness as your shield. Few people have the courage to begin the journey of individuation, and even fewer have the courage to complete it. Because this path does not promise comfort, does not offer guarantees, does not protect your ego, it destroys it. Jung referred to individuation as a process of becoming who you are, but this means, above all, unlearning what you think you are. And that hurts more than any external rejection, because you start to realize that much of what defined you until now was an illusion. You are not your achievements. You are not your traumas. You are not the image you constructed to be loved, respected, or admired. All of this was what you created to survive, but surviving is not living. And individuation is life's call beyond survival. It is when the unconscious begins to push everything that has been repressed, hidden, and distorted to the surface. Individuation requires the dissolution of persona. Jung wrote, "For it is merely a mass of collective convenience." In other words, you will need to tear off your own skin to discover what lies beneath. It is in this process that you begin to become unshakable. Not because nothing affects you anymore, but because you have already gone through the fire. You have faced your monsters. You have looked in the eyes of your shame, your neediness, your anger, and said, "I see you, and you no longer control me." It is this internal clarity, this lucidity in the face of your own darkness, that gives you a strength that does not depend on approval, recognition, or control. You no longer need to be loved by everyone. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to appear strong, because you know who you are, and no one can take that away from you. True emotional armor is not a shell. It is a core. It is the integration of all your parts into a center of consciousness that remains unshaken in the face of storms. You may feel pain, but it does not break you. You may be hurt, but you do not lose yourself, because you have stopped being reactive and have become whole. You have stopped living on the surface and have begun to inhabit the depths. However, this depth comes at a price: loneliness. Not because you will be alone, but because few people can accompany you on this journey. Most are still trapped on the surface, in masks, in the fear of feeling. And when you begin to free yourself, you inevitably distance yourself. But this distancing is not rejection. It is maturation. You do not distance yourself out of pride. You distance yourself because you no longer fit where you once hid. And this brings us to the final point of this journey: consciousness as a shield. Because it is not strength that protects you. It is clarity. This is what we will discuss in the last part. Consciousness as the only state in which nothing, absolutely nothing, has more power over you. Let's finish this crossing together. We are almost there. Now that you've made it this far, there is something that needs to be said very clearly. Nothing, absolutely nothing, will shield you from external suffering if you remain unconscious of what happens within you. The words will continue to hurt. The rejections will continue to sting. The losses will keep bringing you down until you awaken. An awakening is not a magical event. It is a daily choice. It is looking within even when it hurts. It is taking responsibility for everything you feel without blaming others, the past, or fate anymore. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." You have spent your whole life resisting the fear of not being enough, the emptiness of rejection, the pain of loneliness, the anguish of not feeling seen. But what did you do with that? You hid. You silenced yourself. You tried to control everything. You tried to be perfect. You tried to be strong. And all of this has brought you here, exhausted, tired of fighting against the world and against yourself. But now you know, true emotional immunity is not hardness. It is clarity. It is not about creating armor. It is about expanding your awareness. Because when you understand your triggers, your patterns, your wounds, the actions of others lose the power to destroy you. You still feel, but you don't drown. You still suffer, but you don't lose yourself. And that changes everything. What shields you is not protecting yourself from life. It is diving into it deeply. Those who live on the surface get hurt by any wave. Those who dive know that there is silence, stability, and power down below. And that is where you're headed. And when you start to live from that place of integration, presence, acceptance, the world may try to knock you down, but it no longer finds where to hit you. If this video touched you in some way, if something within you has awakened, right here in the comments, I choose awareness. Let's start a movement of people who no longer want to survive by pretending to be strong, but to live with truth. And don't forget, the next video is also part of this journey. It's important. You need to keep going. Real transformation only begins when you don't stop at the first step. See you there.